Hi everyone. There seems to be a lot of talk right now about this album that was released in 2003, Let It Be Naked. And I think there was talk about it a year ago even from Andrew over at Polygram. I think that he was talking about this and exposing something about this. But right now, people are discussing it, and in particular, Matthew Street did a video on this, which kind of made me feel like I should weigh in on this because I ignored it for the first couple of times. And then I thought maybe there's something to it. And Let It Be Naked is a real shame. A shame, but something I don't really care too much about in the end. So I'll discuss it. Well, okay, there's a channel out there called Wings of Pegasus. And over at that channel, I checked out a video where he was dissecting the audio and finding out that we had been duped. This album, which was released in 2003, purported to be hearing the Beatles as nature intended. That was the idea, wasn't it? That was the idea of Let It Be Naked. The idea was to go back to basics, strip it down of all of the Phil Spector-ish effects that accompanied it when he put it on there during the 1970 release, and to get us back to the sound the way Paul McCartney and the other Beatles wanted it. In particular, Paul McCartney's version of The Long and Winding Road. He never liked all that orchestration that Phil Spector lavished upon it. Now, for me personally, I've gone on record as saying this in the past, I prefer the Phil Spector version. I prefer Let It Be, the album, the way we got it in 1970, The Long and Winding Road, with all its glorious, angelic kind of effects on it. I like it much better that way. Okay, but I do appreciate what Paul was concerned about, and I do appreciate Paul originally not wanting to have all that excess on it. The commenter over at Wings of Pegasus, the way he was presenting the case was very intricate, very detailed. He absolutely nitpicked down to a science the audio of The Long and Winding Road off this album that was supposed to be bare bones. And what he discovered was that it was auto-tuned. Auto-tune has been around, I believe, right since the late 90s. The first time I became aware of it was in a Cher song called Believe, and I liked it because in that particular song it was done as a bizarre effect. And I've gone on record also as saying many times that I can't even detect auto-tune. I can't tell when there's auto-tune, if it's modest, I know what it is. It's kind of like a robotic, unnatural, non-human kind of way of singing. People are always telling me Ringo Starr's newest albums, they have auto-tune on it, and I'm like, I don't hear it. And I've always said this, I'm glad I don't hear it. If I don't hear it, that's fine. I don't want to borrow trouble. Okay? Why find something to get upset about? If I can't hear it, terrific. But over at Wings of Pegasus, he was really, really overanalyzing it, in my opinion. I mean, he's very good at what he does. He's got a great set of ears. And obviously, that's what he does over at his channel. And this was a revelation. It's funny, for like 22 years, people have listened to Let It Be Naked, and nobody cried about it. Nobody had anything really bad to say about it. Now, for me personally, this album, I can't remember the last time I heard this. I mean, I have it on compact disc also. I can't remember the last time I heard this. I played it a few times back in 2003 when it came out. It's not my go-to. What I like best about this album is I like that it includes Don't Let Me Down, a different version of Don't Let Me Down. And not all the songs here knock me out. I remember liking I've Got a Feeling on here, and as I say, Don't Let Me Down. And it's nice to have what's supposed to be the raw version of The Long and Winding Road, and we found out it's not. Because Wings of Pegasus over there, he went really, really careful, and he just had a graph that has all kinds of pitch lines on there, and he has the wavelengths of the vocals, and he can show you, see, over here it's below the line, over here it's above the line, and over here, when you compare the original version that was released Paul's vocals natural. When you look at this one on Let It Be Naked, you can see that he stays on the line. Your vocal naturally is not supposed to stay right on the line in a natural singer. They auto-tuned it, they fixed it. Okay, now here's my judgment of all this, okay? Number one, I think the worst thing we can say is that we were duped, and the album Let It Be Naked is not Let It Be Naked. It is not going back to basics. It is not as nature intended, as the Beatles intended. It is just the opposite. We now find out that this is a dupe. We got duped. We got gypped. And Let It Be Naked is a farce. But here's the silver lining, if there is one to be had. I don't care. Okay, I really don't care. At the end of the day, to me, it's how does it sound? Does it sound good? Do I like what I hear? If I like what I hear and it doesn't bother my ears or distract anything, I'm fine with it. And the very few times I play Let It Be Naked, which I don't really go back to, but when I do, I'm perfectly fine with it. You know, I don't sit there and think, oh my God, listen to that audio. Oh, what'd they do? Oh my, his voice. You know, sometimes it's more intrusive than others on certain releases. This one, I didn't notice it. So, yes, I think it's a really stinky thing that the Beatles camp did. And I don't know how involved Paul McCartney was in it, if this is the case. Or what. You know, on this channel, Wings of Pegasus, he only really focused on the one song, The Long and Winding Road. I don't know if every song is also equally auto-tuned, although I think it is. I think that's the idea. But just talking here for, you know, all intents and purposes, just talking about The Long and Winding Road, it sounds good to me. It's not natural. It's a little robotic. Okay, you tell me, you know, it's auto-tuned. Okay, my ears tell me I don't mind hearing it, and that's luckily for me. That's the case with most of this auto-tune that we hear, because I don't listen to Ringo Starr's albums in recent years where there's a lot of them are auto-tuned and say to myself, oh boy, wow, look how blatantly annoying that is. I feel kind of sorry for those of you out there, and there are a lot of you apparently who hear all these like disturbances. I'd probably pull my hair out if I was disturbed by the audio. I mean, I know people that their audio files to the point where they're not even enjoying the music anymore. They're constantly playing with the audio, the volume, the treble, you know, the bass. And I know a guy at the record store who does that. When I visit the record store, he's always putting on records, and he's changing turntables over, and he's putting different speakers on. He never gets satisfied with the sound. He's always tweaking and toying and playing in games with it. And I don't envy people like that. You know, in a way, I have to chuckle, because it's really rich. So many Beatles fans getting up in arms about Let It Be Naked being, oh, you know, not the real raw primitive vocal. They enhanced it. They did things. Didn't the Beatles always, throughout their entire career, change vocals, do little tricks, fine-tune things, play games with the voices? That's what they were known for, among many other things. The Beatles were at the cutting edge of that. They kind of started that. You know, I'll tell you, you had John's voice slowed down in Strawberry Fields Forever to get the two versions that were different tempos matching for the song. That's not John's voice in there. It's trickery. Okay? How about John's voice on Tomorrow Never Knows with a Leslie speaker? That's all faked. That's all unnatural. So I'm just playing devil's advocate here. The Beatles always did that. John Lennon never liked the sound of his voice. How about Honey Pie, the song on the White Album that Paul did? You got that old distant vaudeville sound that was put like through an old phonograph speaker effect. Okay? Hell, the Phil Spector album that came out in 1970, the original Let It Be that we got, that whole thing isn't really as nature intended, right? That's all fakery, and that's all different sound effects and things. So in a way, what is everybody getting so up in arms about? So to cap it off here, yes, the Beatles did a dirty one here. This is not Let It Be Naked, okay? Do I care? No, because to me personally, to my set of ears, it sounds fine. If the outcome is okay to listen to, fine. So I'll tell you how I'll end this for you. If this bothers you people so much, Let It Be Naked, let's call it Let it be embellished. Okay? So that's it now. All we got to do is change the title. If the Beatles change the title, let Apple change it around, make it into Let It Be Embellished. And now nobody's going to cry so much about it. But I get the point. I get the point that this was really not honest. And I'm done.